My mom would call the Coast Guard. Have you seen Celeste Cook? She's out there in alignment. I don't know. We had a big storm. And after the first summer, they say, Mrs. Cook, I'm sure she's okay. She knows how to drive the boat. So for a couple of summers, the Coast Guard's got a lot of dozens of cookies from my mother. And I was safe. Here I am with more education. The Toledo Blade, you can see in the date of 1973, we were hit very badly with a huge storm. I'm sure a lot of us remember the summer following that, where we heard the steel banging all summer, bang, bang, and having to reconstruct the dock. Dwight Ellis, I believe, he was the general manager at the time, and we fundraised through dollars for the dock. And he had to raise an enormous amount of money to refurbish that. This picture, these pictures are showing about around that time of destruction, the 1960s. The left picture, I'm sorry, it's a really old one. You can see how low the water was. And it had been so low that on the left-hand side, midway, you can see the shrubs that are growing at the waterfront. You can see my mom's blue rowboat. That was her speed. And I'm so glad I have these photographs, because if you can see, like right in the middle, right here, you can see the ladder that is going up the side. Most people, when they're visiting Lakeside, can hardly imagine that there was a break wall there, or that there were ladders at the end of the streets, that people could come down the street and make their way safely into the water. But that's mostly gone. On the upper right-hand side, that is Bud Rankin's dock that he would put up judiciously every single year. Or not every single year, he just finally gave up on it. But this is between Jasmine and Laurel. And he would try to pull up his big boat in there and other boats. And it didn't always work, but we always appreciated his stamina to do that. You'll also notice in the front, because I'm a gardener, those are my mom's daylilies. She was, in my recollection, she was the first person that planted daylilies on the lakefront. And that was in the 60s. On the lower right, you can see that's almost like the Peckinpah's cottage where the destruction was. You can just barely see some of the break wall in the middle, the old break wall that's gone. And here, again, the further erosion, you can see that was the same house as before. The water is up now against the break wall. There's been stone in the back, up in the lawn to protect it. And Lee, that's your photograph. Thank you very much for that. He likes to take his kayak out in the morning. So now we have boulders in the front to protect it, and I actually paid people to bring more boulders in so that I could have a garden. So here's the important part that I'd like to make sure that people take away with them, and that is the part of how American Red Cross did play in having our dock become usable by boats. And this is when John Bolster and Chuck Dial, again, the National Aquatic School, had come to Lakeside 2 years in a row. And they were very familiar with Lakeside. They were very close with Frank Thompson. And they wanted to promote water safety and be able to set up a sailing school there. And at the same time, there's George in the background, George Gunlock working in the background, working with the trustees, and they still wouldn't let him. He had a lightweight snark, which was plastic, and he'd haul it down back and forth every single day, and he wasn't allowed to keep it at the dock for any length of time. Meanwhile, I knew John Bolster because I had started working with the American Red Cross, teaching swimming to inner city kids for a couple of summers, and doing other programs. And John lassoed me in to develop a water safety program for the city of Toledo, and I'd go to homes, private homes and pools to teach water safety. along with doing commercials. Not commercials, getting on children's television programs, and one of them was Romper Room. And I was thinking the other night, I had to wait till I was 21 before I got on Romper Room. I always wanted to be the bopper, and they really wanted to see me through that mirror. Anyway, so that was a really good marriage. No, I shouldn't say that. It was a good relationship. It's the synchronicity of John taking me under his wing and then sending me off to sailing school. But at the same time, he was speaking with Dwight Ellis for the 2 years and convincing him that the American Red Cross could handle this, could be responsible, and promote safety at the same time. And very much so, this is a words that I had heard before, is that we do not want to promote anybody from Put-in Bay to come onto the shores of Lake Erie. So, and we managed to keep that intact. So I'm hoping some of you remember this basic sailing book. And here's our wonderful, beloved George Gunlock, who was the co-founder of the Lakeside Sailing Club. And he was a lakeside enthusiast, as you all know. He was a lifeguard with Frank Thompson, and did a lot for Lakeside and was always gung-ho. And I suspect that it really bugged the heck out of him, just like it would me, if you knew and you grew up with Lakeside, with being on a boat and on the waterfront, and then it was taken away from you. It just didn't make sense. And I really appreciate his tenacity to keep on top of the board of trustees. So you see George in the garden. His daughter Chris says he wasn't a gardener, he wasn't a handyman, but when he came to Lakeside he was always at Lakeside. But when he retired, he started gardening, and because his daughter, through inspiration of his daughter Chris, and then after we got in the sailing school established, he decided to teach windsurfing. And his daughter said that he actually took a chair out there and was windsurfing on a chair. I remember that. He taped the chair to the windsurfer. I'm not sure why, but I'm sure he had a reason for it. And that is I, a co-founder. And different from what the book says, I was the first certified sailing instructor. And I was the only one that year. The following year, American Red Cross sent George and Mike Schaffner to the sailing school. I think Mike was either 13 or 14 when he assisted George, and then he moved up into being able to be a teacher as well. On the far left are the Schaffners, that's George's Snark, so that was really the first boat at the lakefront, because we were so glad to have that. That's the Schaffner's yellow boat, but my boat, which actually became the Bruckens boat, is way far in the back, I believe, and so my boat was really the first official sunfish at the Lakeside Sailing Club, and it came home on the top of my car from my sailing camp. So here's it's not our first regatta. You can see all the names, you can find all sorts of people, but there's someone in particular that I really want to have people recognize, because he went through our classes, and he's a Lakesider. He's a third or fourth generation Lakesider, but he also is a captain of the Great Lakes. He is the one who captains these boats in and out of the Great Lakes. And John, would you please stand up? He's one of my students, Captain John Chittister. So we've had people do great things, coming from our little humble beginnings here at Lakeside. James Hill, he is a Coast Guard. He went to Coast Guard school, right? Academy. And that's what comes to mind right now. I want to make sure I speed up. One of the times we had an activity, and we went up on stage for Hoop Auditorium night. I can't remember what it was for. We also had picnics at the Friday after we had our tests, and then later on, when I bought a Cape Dory Typhoon, I would take my basic sailing 2 classes out on the Typhoon. which is a sloop, 18-foot sloop. Here's John Starry. He was the one, if anyone remembers that long road, that like roller coaster. There were so many boats now. Within a couple of years, we had about 70 boats on the lakefront, and we're trying to manage them. So he did that sort of roller coaster system. I'm going to back up one if I can. No, that's a couple of them. So look at that sign on the top there. That actually is an ironing board that I bought at a sale at my next door neighbor's. But Dave Smith and I were the first. We did that together. With a router. We borrowed Raleigh's router, and probably about 10 o'clock at night we're carving that out, and we actually made the first brackets to hold up the spars. And so thank you, Dave, for coming in on all of that, and we really appreciate your part that you played in that. Here's a quick schedule of what some of our regattas, races would be, and then of course you got to be thrown in if you won the race. Here's Frank Thompson's wonderful pool. Again, there's Frank, even in his death, doing something going forward for the Lakeside, and now he would, I think, be extremely pleased that what we have now. I mean, I can't even imagine how happy he would be. So here's the real workhorse. In my opinion, George and I got the job done. We started the school, but the SOS, the Society of Old Salts, is the workhorse of what I believe that where we have been able to come today. After I was teaching for 5 years, I left when I got married, and past that time, there have been a plethora, a huge community of men and women, mostly men, who have done everything that they, with their open hearts and minds and time, have donated so much of their time to the sailing program. Here is the first literature that went out, and notice that's in 91. Notice on the second page, look at all the projects they were able to accomplish in 9 years. That's quite a lot. That's a lot of work. So the two essential factors for the success of our program, our waterfront, is certified instruction, with safety being number 1 and fun being number 2. Of course, equipment safety is in there. But these two men, Tony Apazos and Jim Meyer, have also carried a huge load with their time, their hands, their their money, etc. Tony's established the SOS in, you saw it back behind there, and at first they had, sorry, I forgot about my notes. Let's see. He established, it was 16 years ago. He had 27 members. Now we have 134. And then he with Bill Maynard started the Kids Set Sail, and Bill took that over and has run with that beautifully. Tony has also he started the Mouse Island race and has made over 200 wooden mouse trophies for them, which are really adorable. And a little bit about his family. His son Greg was the captain of the racing team at University of Michigan and took their team to a national racing rating. There have been other family members like the Hills who have done great things with their boat experiences. The Deadrose, they bought in '78. Their son John was an instructor in '87 and '88 and '89. Bonnie Hike's son Doug was an instructor. Eddie, what?
That's Brad.
Brad. Oh, okay, good. Brad. Eddie. No, I know he was on there, but there's. Bill, where are you here? The Bixels. Ricard. He was there for Ricard. He was there for 8 years, and Ryan Moth was there for 11 years. So And there's Bill Dudrow working hard. Well, he's playing now, but I'm sure he was working hard. We really had a hole in the wall. We had leaks, we had everything, noise, pump going, whatever. In fact, that's our classroom. Right over Bill's left elbow was where our classroom was. You saw me bending down and helping to teach knots. We have a beautiful classroom now and a sailing office. And here's Bill at the helm with Kiss. I don't know what that older guy's doing on there, but somehow he talked him into it. And there's a huge group of people. It takes 13 to 14 people to get all the sailors through the kids set sail. You have to be 5 to 10 years old, I think. And they have had up to date almost 9,000 students. 9,000 students. And I'm saying partially, I want to emphasize that is because it is important. I look at all of our wonderful SOS volunteers, and they're older than I am, and we need the next generation to come in. We all appreciate what's happened down the lakefront, but we need to regenerate ourselves. And